Hi everyone, my name's Yvonne Britton and I'm joined today by Gabriel Gonsalves. Hi Gabriel,
Hello, Yvonne. Thank you for having me here.
thank you so much for joining us. So Gabriel, you specialise in heart intelligence. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, sure. The essence of what I do is I help people come home to themselves. I like to use the heart as a metaphor. We all do. It's been used as a metaphor by poets, by spiritual teachers in our different spiritual traditions, and more and more and more and more, increasingly more by scientists who are starting to recognize that there's a lot more to the heart that we have led to believe. Our heart, for example, is the very first organ that develops in the human fetus, way before the brain, and followed by the tongue, by the way. A lot of people don't know this. The first organ that develops, first organ that develops is the heart, and the second is the tongue of the baby. Which is it's a beautiful metaphor for like feel before you speak, like connect with your heart instead of just speaking your mind. So you can think of heart intelligence as a new level of development or a new stage of our next evolutionary stage of our development as human beings, of the movement into this deeper aspect of ourself that is not only our connection with this essential aspect of ourselves, so you can call it your spirituality or your divinity, but it also is also the center of the largest source of energy that is generated in the body. A lot of people don't know, for example, that the heart generates at least 1,000 times more electricity and magnetism than the brain, creating an expanded field that literally expands at approximately 10 meters in every direction. And the only reason they know it's 10 meters is because that's as far as the scientific equipment could measure it. But further studies have actually shown that this field literally has the capacity to go out to other countries, distances, and literally, travel faster than the speed of sound, or the speed of light. And so there is an awareness that begins to happen the moment that we begin to integrate this intelligence that we call the intelligence of the heart, which, by the way, it's part of a three system of or system of three intelligences that we all have. Where majority of us are known to just know a lot about our intellect or our mental intelligence, what we normally refer to as IQ. But many spiritual traditions and also different philosophies have also acknowledged that we also have two other complementary intelligence systems, right? The other one being the intelligence of the heart, and then the intelligence of our gut, which is coincidentally is where we have the largest concentration of neural cells. These are cells that are like brain cells, pretty much. In our hearts, what scientists have discovered, neurocardiologists have discovered, is that we have a small group of about 40,000 neural cells that neuroscientists call the heart's brain, that has a capacity to think independently from the neurons or the neural cells in the brain. And not only that, but it also has the capacity to remember, to retain memory, and to override the thinking of the brain when the heart is fully empowered or energized, if you may. We also possess that kind of intelligence also in our gut. In for example, in Taoism, in some of the Eastern traditions, they refer to these three intelligence systems as the head, the heart, and the gut, or the upper dantian, middle dantian, lower dantian. In anthroposophy, for example, the occult science of Rudolf Steiner, that is the foundation of Waldorf education. They call it the thinking, the feeling, and the will, right? And the whole idea is that, of heart intelligence is not for it to replace all the other intelligences, right? We need our brains. We need our creative mind. Our minds are a wonderful tool for creativity. which can create, as you know, beauty or can create chaos, right? We need that. But also we also need the intelligence of the gut, which is also the part of you that is more connected with your instinct and the preservation of all life. So whenever we have this gut instincts, is always a part of us that is trying to maintain or help us survive or navigate a difficult ecosystem or a territory or a situation. The intelligence of the heart, though, as many spiritual traditions refer to, is that part of ourselves that is connected to the higher sense of love, the energy that nurtures, loves, and supports all of life. And so what we want to do then, ultimately, and the essence of what heart intelligence is about integrating, using the higher capacity of the electromagnetism of the heart to bring all three systems into a unified intelligence. That is what I normally refer to as high intelligence, which is what allows many people to have this experience of heightened creativity, increase their immune function, begin to access higher order of intuition, higher order of thinking, reduce aging in the body. You know, you literally, a lot of people, once they start practicing a lot of the heart center meditation techniques, immediately begin to feel younger, have more energy, and begin to operate from a completely different space. You know, the ancient Taoist, which is, as you know, the ancient tradition in China, they taught and believed in these three intelligence systems, and they refer to them in their mythology as, they call the heart, they refer to as the emperor, the head they refer to as the king, and the gut they refer to as the samurai. So the emperor is where the nobility lived, right? Is the highest ideals where they lived, and reflected in the emperor. The king is where all the rules lived, right? Where the intellect is. And the samurai is the one that ultimately goes out to battle, the one that actually moves into action and goes and does the killing, basically. So what they taught was that what you want to do is integrate all systems so that the king, the emperor, and the samurai are all in alignment. They're all moving in the same direction, right? Otherwise, you have a house divided within itself. You know, what does this mean in terms, if you're listening to me and you say, okay, great, but how do I apply this to my life? Well, have you ever felt, for example, whether if you are making important decisions about a relationship that you might be in right now, or some course that you want to take, or you want to change careers, you want to take on a new job, and you feel like your head, your mind is telling you one thing, but then your heart, something completely is different is being told, and then your gut is telling you something completely different. Okay, well, what you want to do is you want to bring the higher wisdom, the love, and the power that you can access through your heart, so that you can reconcile the information that is coming from your intellect, the information that is coming from the higher wisdom that your heart gives you access to, and the information that's coming from your preservation instinct that's coming from your gut, right? So that then you can make a decision that is in greater alignment, where you can, for example, you know, a heart-based decision that is operating using these three intelligence systems, at which the heart is at the center. There's a reason why the heart is at the center. What I refer to as a hell yes decision. Okay, yes, hell yes decision. What does that mean? It means it's a decision that makes sense at the level of the intellect or the mind. It's a decision that feels right at the level of your heart or your emotions. And it's that decision at the level of the gut that scares you a little. You know, why? Because whatever it is that you're deciding, if there's not an element of slight fear, if not a lot of fear, it means that you're not stepping out of your comfort zone, you know, in order to move into new territory. So you want to make decisions that make sense, feel right, but at the same time scare you a little, which means you're going to have to break out of your comfort zone and go into the unknown, uncharted territory, so that you can then move forward and have whatever it is that you want. Okay. And so I believe that the heart is at the center, and what has been left out primarily, out of a lot of our spiritual teachings, out of our educational system in school or university. And it's really, fascinating because it's not really something new. We're rediscovering this realm. When you have, for example, somebody like all the way back to ancient Greece, like Aristotle. He was a student of Plato. And Aristotle believed in a heart-centric world, basically, or model of human anatomy, where the heart was at the center. Plato taught the opposite. He taught that it was an encephalocentric or brain-centered, that everything started with the brain, basically, and the brain controlled everything. And so what Aristotle taught and preached was that an education system where you only educate the mind but do not educate the heart is actually flawed. It's not true education at all. And you could see that. You could see it in our society simply by the level of disconnection that you see out there, in ourselves. And I speak with myself because I find myself constantly feeling disconnected and then having to continuously go back and reconnect myself. So this ties in, which was what I was saying earlier, that my job as a heart intelligence coach and a teacher is help people to reconnect back with themselves, with what's true and real, about themselves, with the essence of who they really are. Partly as my contribution to a world where I believe the majority of us are disconnected first from our bodies. That's one of the reasons why you do what you do. You help people through nutrition and through all the different practices that you teach to reconnect again with their own bodies. Our bodies, if we're really in our body and attuned into our bodies, your body's constantly speaking to you. Your body knows what food it likes. Your body knows also what foods make you sluggish, sleepy, tired, gain weight, and all of that. But if you're disconnected from your body, because you're always living out of your head or out in the future, or always disconnected or connected to your cell phone or whatever it is that you use to distract yourself from the present moment awareness in the body, then you miss out on this information that's constantly being given to you. So we're disconnected. The majority of us are disconnected in our society from ourselves and our bodies. We're disconnected from the planet as well, right? From the earth itself. The majority of us don't even know where our food comes from.
Yeah, that's true.
We are disconnected also from each other. We're disconnected. There's never been such a higher rate of divorce, breakups, and conflict in our, in relationships. Mostly because majority of us struggle because many of us aren't even connected to our own emotions, struggle feeling our own emotions. It becomes even harder to actually embrace or to feel another person's emotions, or much less, allow them the safe space where you can listen to somebody really share how they really feel. So we're disconnected from each other. We're also disconnected from our own divinity, the aspect of ourselves that is in essence pure, beautiful, that it's your connection to God, the Christ within you, the Buddha within you, the Krishna presence, whatever you want to call it, that higher source of wisdom. So for me in my work as a coach, when I talk about heart intelligence, it's not just emotional intelligence. It actually, I believe your heart is your connecting point, not just to your emotions, but it's also the connecting point to your soul's wisdom, which is connected to the higher wisdom of the divine. Hence, when you begin to live your life from your heart, what begins to happen is you experience many transformation in your relationships and in your relationship with your body, in your relationship with nature. You literally, you go through a process of transformation, which is why the type of coaching that I do is ultimately very transformative, because we are working in an integral, holistic way. Again, because the heart is at the center of a system, right? That is powered by the heart itself. I don't know if this makes sense. I've been talking quite a bit. I'm feeling like I'm just like dumping all these things on you.
No, it's really fascinating. and it makes sense. Yeah, I'm just making loads of notes. It totally makes sense. So do you, like, looking at health as like one of the components, have you seen like transformations in health, or do you get people coming to you with, like health issues, or is it, yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, well, I'll speak first about my experience. I'll share some experiences with some clients. Before I came to this work, and by the way, I am licensed by, as one of the trainings that I have done, and licenses that I received is, I'm licensed by the Institute of Heart Math in the United States in California, who has been for the past nearly 40 years running extensive research on the math of the science of the heart and the heart's role in reducing stress, improving emotional, physical, mental, spiritual well-being. And they have developed biofeedback mechanisms, machines, programs, softwares, devices that allow you literally to track not just your heart rhythms, but the heart rate variability, which is becoming increasingly more used and by health practitioners to literally to be able to predict longevity and the risk of cancer and diseases. One of the things a lot of people don't know is that the heart is, after 1983, it was reclassified by the medical establishment as an endocrine producing gland. And it has the capacity to produce different hormones that literally reduce aging and improve well-being. And so by practicing some of the techniques and tools that are designed and taught by the Institute of Heart Math, which I also teach in my seminars and workshops, and anybody listening to this can actually go to heartmath.org, I believe is their website, and just download some of the practices, many of them available freely online and on their YouTube channel. You can immediately begin to see major change. So I used to be, before I came into this work, someone that like every 3 months or so, I had a flu that would like knock me down for a few days. I would get quite sick. And I just learned to see that as like, it was just something normal. You know, I get sick, I get the flu, I got wet in the rain, whatever, and then I get sick. It was just normal. Well, I haven't had the flu in years now, at least 2-3 years. Whenever I get sick, I just feel discomfort in the body for about a day, maybe or two, but it doesn't stop me from operating, from seeing clients, or from being about in the world. I just move around, just knowing that my body is, it's processing something, it's healing something. And so that's one of the things, that immediate effects that you begin to see. You begin to see a strengthening of your entire immune system. Now, what a lot of people don't know, and this is also, there's a lot of scientific evidence to affirm what I'm going to say, is that the primary cause of most diseases are actually emotionally based. Okay, they're emotionally based. Has it ever happened to you, for example, that you get really upset about something, and then the next day you're sick? Or that you're having a meal, for example, and then you receive some bad news, or you get into an argument with your partner or somebody, and next thing you know, you're having vomit or diarrhea or indigestion, and you feel that. Well, it's because the primary reason that we get sick is our emotions, either our inability to embrace and cope and feel our emotions, or our absolute complete disconnection from our emotions, where we either deny them or repress them. And therefore those emotions, as their energy itself, as the word emotions actually says, energy and motion. Emotions are not only biochemical compounds that move through the body, creating all these sensations, but they're also electromagnetic waves of energy that move through our bodies, designed to give you information about both your inner environment and the outer environment. All right. That is, for example, how a dog can read you, can know when you're down, when you're sick, and come up to you and console you, and know when you're vulnerable. They're very good at reading emotional energy, which is basically vibrational events. So you begin to experience, first immediately by doing this practice is an improvement in your immune function, which means you begin to get stronger. Your immune system, which means you can fight most common colds or things like that of that nature. Your body can process them a lot quicker. You don't have to be in bed for so many days. You have more energy. Your ability to also have higher thinking, if you may. You think better, which means you then begin to make better choices about what to eat, right? When to eat, how to eat. One of the things that that has happened to me in my own experience is that my ability to also cope with life's ups and downs, right? Because here's the thing: heart-centered living, or even anybody that's on some form of spiritual path, doesn't exempt you from the crisis and the ups and downs of life. You're still going to be stood up by a person you like, and they're going to look at you funny, and you may fall down and break your leg. These are just part of just living life. But what will happen though is your ability to bounce back, which is what HeartMath calls resiliency, will improve tremendously. So how does this translate, in my life? Well, have you ever had, for example, like an emotional upset, that takes you about maybe like 3 months to get over? It could be the breakup of a relationship, or, some difficulty with a client or something like that. Well, in the past, what used to take me about 3 months to process and to sort of release and move through, now takes me maybe about a week. So the time has been cut down to about a week. What used to take me about a week to process, or 3 weeks to process, now it's maybe a day or two. What used to take me a day to process, now it's processed in 2-3 minutes. Why is that? Well, if you think about emotional energy that is trying to move through you, and what we do, like when you're riding a roller coaster, right? What we do is we close down, we repress, we don't want to feel this emotion, so we push them down, creating literally imbalances in the body. Because where do these emotions go? Well, they become trapped in your body. And any emotion that's trapped in your body will create some kind of an imbalance in the body. The body, in order to maintain its equilibrium, its homeostasis, will have to counteract or balance it somewhere, and hence the physical discomfort that may become some kind of a disease. And so what happens is, if you begin to energize your heart through this group of practices, and what happens is you literally begin to expand or grow in your capacity to allow more emotion to move through your body. So instead of, if you think of yourself as like a funnel, where it's like a little tube where everything has to move through, by energizing your emotional system, the heart being at the center of it, what you're doing is you're expanding your capacity to tolerate emotions, which in the past you would not give yourself permission to. And so these emotions are flowing more easily through your body. So what have I seen as a coach in the 9 years that I've been coaching professionally now? I've had numerous clients, for example, who were taking antidepressant for years, right? And little by little, without even we setting the intention that they were going to stop taking antidepressants, little by little, they began to let go of their attachments or addiction or dependency, actually, on antidepressants. I've had, it's happened many times. People who had addictions, those addictions began to go away. Think of these, what we call addictions, whether if it's to an antidepressant, to alcohol, which is actually a depressant, to any other form of drug or medication. These are compensating mechanisms that the majority of us go to in order to not deal with our emotions, right? I don't want to feel my void, my emptiness, my sadness. And so I take an antidepressant. But antidepressants literally also block your ability to feel joy. So you're kind of now riding sort of like a flat line where you a little bit feel like a robot. You don't get excited about much, but you don't get depressed or sad about anything either. There's a time and place for antidepressants, but I believe that the majority of people should not be taking them. They develop a dependency on them. Literally, that connects you with yourself, from your own emotions, which have intelligence in them. Because emotions are within themselves, they contain intelligence. There's a reason why you're feeling these things that you're feeling. You know, emotions are constantly giving you information about, what you're feeling. So, for example, if you feel guilty about something, right, or shame about something, that emotion is oftentimes giving you information about there's something that happened with this person that is not right, that is out of balance, and so I need to look at that by giving myself permission and allow that emotion to have a voice. All right, it's one of the ways in which I teach, how to connect, attune, and listen to the emotions. Same thing with anger. Many of us have demonized in our society anger, so we've been very disconnected from our anger. We've been taught, it's not okay to be angry. It's not okay to throw a tantrum. It's not okay, to express your anger, because anger has a tendency, when let out of control, to become very destructive. But anger is a wonderful energy. It really is creative energy. Once you re-own your anger after having numbing or running away from it, because you were taught that little girls are not supposed to be angry, or men are not supposed to cry or whatnot, and you begin to fully own your emotions again, what begins to happen, you become a healthier human being, become a real human being. All this is all part of the human condition. And so, as a result, then I've seen people who had chronic fatigue syndrome, for example, suddenly they have more energy in the body. Suddenly the access to higher wisdom, the connection with the body, you begin to listen to more to the body telling you. Literally, I almost tell people, listen to your heart as it tells you what foods are right for you. Because if you have something to eat right now, and you're really in tune with your body, and you check in with how you're feeling 10, 15, 20 minutes after you ate that meal, you will know right away whether that's a meal that is actually making you feel good and giving you energy, or if it's a meal that is actually taking energy from you and making you sluggish, and and obviously slowing your metabolism down. You will know that. And so I've seen people then let go of addictions, drinking, marijuana, sex, pornography. And again, a lot more often than not, we don't go out when I work, because I don't see myself as a specialist in the area of addictions. You know, my goal is not to help people overcome the addiction. My help is to help people reconnect with themselves, with their essence. Give them tools so that they can re-own their emotions, learn how to process their emotions, learn how to listen to their emotions. And then as a result, then all these other things that were mechanisms of avoidance, to help you suppress or escape your emotions or not deal with them, have a tendency to fall on their own. You realize, like, I don't need this anymore. I don't need this anymore. And one of the things that makes a lot of people, and used to make me very sick, for example, is using food to compensate for emotions. We do that all the time. There is something called as emotional eating, right? Why? Well, emotions have a direct effect on our hormonal system. Right? The moment you eat a lot of carbs, what happens? Well, there's a production of insulin in the liver, and what has happened when you have insulin in your body? You feel relaxed, you feel good. So whenever, and many of us, when we're working in environments, for example, where there's a lot of stress, right? One of the two things that happen is the majority of us are not breathing very deeply. We're breathing very shallow. We're tightening our neck and shoulder muscles, especially if you're sitting on a chair, typing on a computer. And what happens now, there's very little oxygen going into your body, right? There's a lot of stress that is in your body that's constricting the heart, that is stopping the blood flow to the brain, and you feel brain fog, you feel all cloudy. And so what happens the moment you start bringing some of those techniques into your life, you begin to breathe deeper, you begin to literally oxygenate the brain, you begin to bring everything into what the Institute of Heart Math calls coherence, right? The science of coherence is about integrating the intelligence of the mind and the heart by energizing the heart and establishing what the Heart Math Institute calls the heart-brain connection, right? Which is what we're looking for, right? That's when you think of it as the thinking and the feeling together. That's when you bring greater awareness into the body. There's a lot of research, for example, around smoking. What relaxes most people about smoking is not the actual smoking itself. It's not even the nicotine. It's actually the deep breath that you take, for what I just said. When you've been working for 2 hours on the computer and you're here and you're here and you're breathing very shallow, and then you're like, I got to get a smoke. Well, what do? You go outside somewhere in nature or go out by a window, and then you light up a cigarette, and then you go, oh, I feel so good. This cigarette is amazing. And you're attributing your feeling of wellness to the cigarette, when the truth is, it's the fact that you went out there, took a very deep breath, energize your heart, and then suddenly you relax your shoulders, you relax your neck, and you go, I feel much better. But very little had to do with a cigarette. Most of it had to do with the fact that you took a break to reconnect with your body, to reconnect with nature through earth. Don't forget that the word spirit in Latin, spiritus, means breath. So connecting with your breath, it's, through a very deep breath, is one of the most spiritual things that you can do. It's the essence of what spirituality is really about, which is reconnecting to the essence of the breath of life itself, that which animates you. And so, I could be here talking, for a long time with regards to this, but the essence of it is that, people that begin to live a more of a heart-centered life and begin to reconnect with their heart, and they begin to practice this series of practices, such as the quick coherence technique, or many other techniques that are in essence designed to energize the heart with your breath and evokes feelings of care, love, compassion, appreciation, which is actually what creates the sense of unity between the heart and the brain. Literally began to operate at a higher frequency. The Institute of Heart Math, what they realize is that the moment you begin to practice this, the vibration of the heart changes to 0.1 hertz. And 0.1 hertz begins to give the conditions in the body where you begin to have hormones such as DHEA, for example, that is the hormone that is associated with longevity, higher immune system, higher creativity, deep sense of relaxation. All this is a result of beginning to activate this, what I call this heart-brain connection, by some of these practices. So you will experience then, in so many ways, you will experience a deeper connection with your body, more energy, higher thinking, more creativity. You begin to, one of the things that happens when you begin to practice some of these techniques is the right and the left hemisphere of the brain begin to communicate more effectively, more efficiently. One of the things that happens when you're disconnecting and you're being very shallow and you're not really allowing this emotional energy to flow through your body is there's literally a miscommunication or a lack of communication, a lack of firing of electrical impulses between the two sides of the brain. And remember that one side of the brain thinks linearly and is all logically based, right? It's rational, based on words, thoughts, ideas. And the other one is more intuitive, more creative, right? And is more connected to our feelings. Where this one, normally referred to as the left brain, is very linear. It has a tendency to focus on the details. The non-linear right brain has a tendency to see the big picture, the whole. So what it allows you then is, the moment you start operating out of your heart and beginning to create a sense of heart coherence, or bringing the whole house together, if you may, what you begin to do is you can still focus on the details, but you can see the bigger picture. So it is normally looking at the bigger picture of a problem that allows you to find the solution. Because as long as you are, on the tree and you're just looking at the tree, but you cannot see the forest, it's really hard to see the path out of the forest. But the moment you begin to connect with your heart, and now there's a great communication between these two hemispheres of the brain, now you can see the bigger picture. Once you see the bigger picture about a life, a situation in a relationship, maybe your relationship with food, whatever it is, then you can make wiser choices. You can make smarter choices. Since I have this, I'm going to take a sip of water.
Okay, I feel more relaxed now just listening to you speak.
Well, I have quite a few guided meditations on my YouTube channel, and people always tell me, like, Gabs, every time I listen to you, I feel so relaxed. I fall asleep. At
Yeah,
first,
breathing better and relaxed.
at first I used to take it very personally, and like, what? My intention is to educate you and not to make you fall asleep. But now I take it.
Oh, definitely a relaxing effect. Um, so where can people find you, and like you, what kind of things do you offer? Because I know you've mentioned some um face-to-face events that take place, and you have some online things going on.
Yeah. I'm actually it's a really fascinating moment for in my life, because I just finished walking the Camino de Santiago. Just almost a week ago. And I'm in the process of now moving to the city of Granada in Spain, where I'm going to be based now. This is after living in South Africa in Cape Town for the past 15 years. And so if you want to learn more about me, you can just go to my website, which is just gabrielgonsalves.com.
I'll put that in
And
there.
it's Gonsalves spelled with all S's and small V. And then I also have an academy that runs 3 types of programs, basically for people depending on where you are on your journey. The website is Applied Heart Intelligence. I call it the Academy for Applied Heart Intelligence, where there is three programs that you can sign up for. There's a program called Living from the Heart. That is a 4-week program that it's just designed to give you the basics as an introduction to this work. You learn the very basic practices, and then you also get to make some wonderful people. I teach all my programs in a group setting, live, using this exact same platform, Zoom. So there's a lot of interaction, and we get to practice what these practices are. So this is an introductory program for someone who's new to this work, who just wants to begin to establish that connection and learn the basic practices. Then there's a second program. It's a 3-month program. It's a course on emotional mastery. And this one goes deeper into learning how to manage your emotions, and learning how to understand your emotions. And then also learning how to use the power of your emotions to start creating a life that you want. I teach a system called Manifesting from the Heart that leverages the power of our emotions in helping us make more powerful choices about the kind of life that you want to live, and then also using the heart's wisdom to actually learn how to act more on inspiration rather than just from the linearity of the mind. The system actually uses both linearity and nonlinear. Think of it as a right and left approach to creating a new life for you. So I teach that system during the emotional mastery program, which goes on for 3 months. And then for anybody that wants to actually, wants to become a coach and wants to be supportive of others and wants to work as a heart intelligence coach, I offered a 9-month training program. It's called the Heart Leadership Training Program. Where you also learn the basic practices. You learn the emotional manifestation framework that I teach. You learn the coaching framework, and then you also begin to develop what I call your own path to heart leadership. I believe that heart leadership is the next evolution in terms of leadership development that we're moving into. Exemplified beautifully by people like, for example, Brené Brown, who are leaders who are showing up from a much more real, vulnerable, authentic space, and operating from a place of love. And so, these programs they're not linear. You can just do them independently. You don't have to do one to do the other. Basically, what you learn in the Living from the Heart, you will also learn in the emotional self-mastery. They build upon each other. But we go back, for example, if you want to sign up for the 9-month leadership program, you don't have to do the previous one, because you're going to be learning the material on those 2 programs as we go along. It's just that, different people have different needs. Some people that just want to learn the practices and start making some choices. some people that want to start experiencing the transformation of what it feels like to live from the heart, and some people that just want the bigger journey because they themselves are interested in making an impact in the lives of others. And so that's the Heart Leadership Training Program for. I also offer one-on-one coaching, the opportunity for people to work with me one-on-one. And next year, I'll go back to teaching seminars again, mostly throughout Europe, and then also in the United States.
Okay.
I facilitate a 4-day workshop or seminar called The Path of the Heart, where the focus is not so much on learning the techniques, but it's actually on emotional healing. You know, one of the things that I failed to mention when I started talking about this work is that, you know, the moment most people begin to reconnect with their hearts, inevitably, the majority of people, you begin to meet layers upon layers of emotions that you have blocked and repressed throughout your life.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, the majority of us have gone through a lot of wounding in our relationships, in our, you know, in our parenting by our primary caretakers. And there's a lot of emotional trauma that has actually have just gone really unconsciously, just hidden from many of us. You know, one of the things I started noticing when I started teaching seminars and teaching these practices was that a lot of people were experiencing pain in their heart. Literally, like they feel like the heart is just hurting. And what a lot of people don't know is that, you know, there is something called the heart wall, something that, what's his name? The author of the Emotion Code, Dr. Bradley Nielsen, has been describing extensively and researching. Literally, it's a wall made out of electromagnetic energy, which is basically emotional energy around your heart that you have built there as a defense mechanism to keep you from experiencing pain. So if other people have broken your heart in a relationship, what happens is you show up for your next relationship very guarded. So you don't want to open your heart. And so the problem with having this heart wall is that it keeps us from not only giving love, but also from receiving the love that we want. Okay. And so I then decided to create this series of seminars with the intention of helping people specifically begin to come back into the heart in a safe environment, opening their hearts again, so that this wall can be dissolved. So the seminars includes a lot of group processes where you get to work on the healing with a partner. You also learn tools and practice to learn how to do the healing on your own. And we work a lot at the level of the spiritual, of a spiritual essence through the use of music. Right? Music is something that allows us literally to bypass that wall and dissolve this wall a lot faster and more effectively. You know, specifically, I'm referring to the use of different mantras and and music that has the power to call forth within ourselves a connection with a higher love. Right, because one of the things that many of us struggle is bringing back or reconnecting with the source of the love within us. And so sometimes think of it as a guide or a spiritual teacher or a guru, whether if it's the love of Buddha, the love of Mother Mary, the love of, you know, your grandmother, someone who loved you. But we need to summon a higher connection with a higher form of unconditional love to help us love within ourselves what we believe is unlovable within us. All right. And so the seminar is designed then as an experience in emotional healing using these three processes: individual processes, group processes, and then also the spiritual aspect that is done through music. What this basically means is there's a moment in the seminar where we do a song circle, where once we're clear about what our wounding is, we bring that into the circle, we offer our intentions, and then we move into this place of singing and sometimes dancing, where we begin to allow these wounds to slowly to open up even more so that this love can get in. That's the essence of the work that we do. So all of this information, it's in my website. When you go to gabrielgonsalves.com, you can read up about the Academy's programs. In the next month or so, we'll have the list of upcoming seminars, both in Europe and in the US. and then, you can decide then what feels right for you. And if you have any questions about, what my different offerings are, there is a form on my website that you can just fill out, and I'm happy to jump on the phone or on Skype or whatever and just have a conversation with you and help you decide, what program might be the best program for you, depending on where you are in life, and, and where your requirements are and what your specific needs are.
Okay. Well, this has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And you have a YouTube channel also, don't you? And you have many free resources there for people.
Oh yeah. I have countless guided meditations. Yeah, some of them are healing meditations. There's a wonderful set called the 12 Virtues of the Heart. Each one to help you awaken within yourself a different quality, if you may, or virtue of within the heart. There is a very powerful healing meditation that I've had countless people telling me about the healing that they and people that they've recommended this guided meditation has brought for them in their lives. I've received testimonials that people who've done the guided meditation have been healed from cancer, ulcers, depressions, heartbreaks. And that particular meditation that I'm referring to, it's called Heal. What is it called? Heal by the Sacred Heart of Christ. So it has a very specific Christian approach. Now, though my approach is interdenominational, you're going to notice that some of my biggest influence are Christian based and also shamanic based as well.
Okay, well, I'll put a link to that in the email when I send it out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you go to my website where it says, I think it says blog, or the article, there's a podcast as well. There is something that says others, other stuff. You'll find all the links to all the guided meditations there. And again, all of the guided meditations are available free of charge. You don't have to sign up for any of the programs. And if you're listening to this and you speak Spanish, I have some good news for you. Beginning this year, I'm going to be creating more and more content in Spanish. It's one of the reasons why I moved to Granada. And I think 2020 is officially the year of my crossover, where we're going to be teaching seminars in Spanish. Because up until now, the development of this work has been in English-speaking countries, and so I haven't really been speaking much Spanish. But I feel that more than ever, that people are ready for my message. People are ready for this new way of living. And not only that, it's increasingly more and more and more necessary in today's society.
Definitely more and more demand, I think, and nowadays.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you once again. It's been lovely having you, and it's been absolutely fascinating and very relaxing talking to you. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Iman. Thank you. And congratulations also, on the work that you're doing as well. It's an honor that you're kickstarting this new series of interviews with me. It's great to be part of that.
Thank you for being part of it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.